My name is Simon Peter Ngalomba from University of Salaam, Tanzania. School of Education, University of Salaam. I do teach economics of education, human resource development in education organization and school governance courses in the School of Education. Today, I'm going to present a paper on urban youth unemployment in Tanzania, its nature, challenges, and the consequences. To start with, background to the study, Africa's population is characterized with children and youth aged below 30 years, which constitute about 70% of the continent's entire population. This is according to Economic Commission for Africa 2009. By the year 2050, according to the projection, 29% of the total world youth population will reside in Africa. Globally, youth unemployment rate has remained to its highest peak in the year 2009 because of the economic crisis all over the world. It is estimated that at 12.6% in 2011 and projected at 20.7% in the year 2013. Almost 75 million youth are unemployed around the world, an increase of more than 4 million people from the year 2007. In most of African countries, East and Southern Africa inclusive, unemployment and poverty level have continued to increase and have remained extremely high despite of considerable efforts to promote sustainable development by national governments and international development agencies. This is according to ECA 2002. While youth unemployment is seen as a universal problem all over the country, all over the world, it is obviously this problem is a ticking time bomb, especially in least developed countries. Why? One, it's because youth constitute a significant portion or proportion of the population, especially in these least developed countries. And for example, in case of Tanzania, 68% of the population is made up of young people aged between 15 to 35 years old. And in most countries in sub-Saharan Africa, including Tanzania, youth agenda is only given due attention during political campaigns. When they approach general election, is whereby this youth agenda is given due attention. For instance, in the year 2005, during the election campaigns, the youth were promised during the campaigns, they are promised that when a certain party got into power, then there are going to be 1 million employment opportunities. That campaign was wrapped with the slogan, New Zeal, Speed, and Vigor. According to Makulilo, 2013 argued that that ruling party presidential candidate described himself as youth candidate, and his campaign went hand in hand with the excessive use of media and the over-ambitious promises, especially to youth and women, as the ruling party has for a long time enjoyed the mostly support of elders and women. So, because they've been using, they have that influence between elders and women, then they want to take on board youth as well. And the coming of youth president, in quotation, assured more votes from the youth group. 5 years down the line, 2010, another general election, the same ruling party made more promises and plans this time around with addition of slogans. This time with better life for every Tanzanians and the modification of previous campaign slogan to more zeal, more speed, and more vigor. These over-promises was among other aspects that made ruling party presidential candidate be very popular. So with the attitude of 5 years given is not enough, because they give attitude that 5 years given before was not enough to accomplish promises. Hence, people, especially youth, were being asked to give incumbent parties more chance to finish the good work started during the phase 1. In reality, when one takes stock of what has been promised in the year 2005, nothing vividly seen done as far as reducing youth unemployment, especially in urban areas. Ultimately, youth unemployment still persists. Objective of this study, one, is to analyze nature of youth unemployment in terms of its level and distribution in Dar es Salaam and Arusha cities. These are major cities, the commercial cities in Tanzania. The other one is to uncover consequences caused by urban employment in Dar es Salaam and Arusha city. Statement of the problem: despite Tanzania's economy being resilient to economic recessions with GDP growth of 6.5 during 2012 and expected to remain upbeat with the GDP growth of 7.1 in 2013, there are no available comprehensive programs that target the youth. Hence, the majority of the youth have no option but rather to swim on the unemployment pool. Research methodology: the study adapted a case study design. Also, we use secondary data from integrated labor force survey. So this design provided an in-depth information about urban youth unemployment in Tanzania. Discussion of findings. This study finds that among findings in this study, one is slow-growing economy to create adequate jobs. Growth in high capital intensive sector like mining and tourism. Mining is number 1 in terms of a productive sector, and tourism is number 2, which are mainly operated by foreigners. Operated and employ foreigners instead at the expense of locals, with few residents given the low cadre in those organizations. This is highly problematic due to the fact that Tanzania each year produces about 700,000 graduates entering into the labor market, but only 40,000, which is equal to 5.7%, get employed. Another findings is that we found that there is laxity in labor and immigration laws, whereby many foreign companies and organizations have taken advantage of this laxity to employ foreigners at the expense of locals, youth, even to the position which local youth are qualified and have adequate experience and fit for the job. Another further, small-scale enterprises, whereby foreign nationals, especially from Far East, they penetrate to do even to these small jobs, this small business. You can find someone all the way from the place I don't want to mention. You'll find he's selling groundnuts, on which I think the local can do that. So you can see they are high. They obscure locals to do that kind of business. Another findings we found is discrepancy between education and training skills and labor market requirements. This is, I found that it's because of poor flow of information on the skills demanded by the potential employers, explain high rate of urban youth unemployment. Nonetheless, disorganized and quantity-driven education expansion and training prepare a reserved army of unskilled youth who may not fit in the modern, competitive, and dynamic and vibrant labor market. Hence, if not checked, this will prepare half-baked graduates who soon will be unemployed youth in the street and become gangs. They could be better utilized in gangs, drug trafficking, and terrorist groups. Consequences of having an army of unemployed youth, especially who are educated, we could find that youth are as influencers. These people have been to universities, they learn how to use social media, they are conversant with social media, so they could take that advantage to disrupt peace in the country. Also, there is this consequences, youth indulging in delinquent behaviors, presence of gangs that engaged in antisocial or illegal behavior such as theft, rape, and murder. Also, we found that in these two major cities, we found that so many youth are engaged in commercial sex, excessive alcoholism, and narcotic drug cartels. Interventions. Government must play its constitutional responsibility of creating enabling socio-economic and political environment, including provision of infrastructure to make industrial climate investment friendly, which this will encourage investors to invest and thereby create jobs in order to absorb the unemployed youth. Another intervention, there is a need to revisit the provision of the curriculum to make it responsive to the demands of the labor market, in which we are saying learning process in education institutions should not only be confined within the classroom, just within the classroom's discussion, but rather interaction with today's dynamic business environment, so that you expose those graduates in the business or labor market environment. In conclusion, we are saying youth unemployment is a menace in Tanzania, and it constitutes a real danger and a threat to Tanzania's long-standing peace and security. This is because these youths could be manipulated to undermine the stability of the country and neighboring countries, democracy at any point in time. So that's the end of my presentation. Thank you so much.